Okay, here we are. First live streaming vlog using Google Hangouts. I'm going to be the first and probably the only one, since I'm going to be the only one on camera talking, person to say that I really don't know how this works, and this is an experiment. I am approaching this live vlog like I approach everything in life. Feet first. Head first, feet first. Well, whatever. You at a running start. So, hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to the conversation. I'm calling this a live stream vlog, but whatever. I've had an interest in doing vlogs and some sort of podcasting or something for a really long time. It's just never materialized into something. So I thought, well, you know, first day of autumn yesterday. I've been meaning to do I've been meaning to try this live events feature on YouTube. I'm meaning to kind of start like a vlog where I talk about, you know, I travel a lot, I create media a lot. I'm always kind of doing different adventures, and I put out videos and I put out content, but I don't really talk about the process that much. So I thought, you know, first day of fall, what better day to kick this thing off and do a little experimentation. So I'm just going to chat for like maybe a half hour, 40 minutes. If anybody jumps on and leaves a comment, that's great. If not, that is fine too. So yeah, first day of autumn. That means the summer is over. I had a super, super busy summer. Was back and forth to Juneau, Alaska 3 times. For about 3 to 5 days each. I was doing media for an environmental restoration and mitigation project about 20 minutes away from Juneau, Alaska. So I've been filming, doing the photographs, creating the website, basically creating all of the multimedia and the web experience for this restoration project. It's been super fun. I did it last year as well, and it's totally different from a lot of the other travel media projects I've done or things like that. So that's been a blast. I've been up in Juneau. It's been a very wet summer up in Juneau, so there's that, but it's been a nice, I'm in LA, I live in LA, so being up in the cold, kind of drizzly, foggy mountain element of Juneau, that wilderness was just what the doctor ordered, if you know what I mean. It was awesome. What else? I feel like the last 3 weeks was super busy. I was at the Little League World Series with the 2004 championship team from Curacao. I was hired by the Curacao. Oh, hey, I got one viewer. Awesome. I was hired by the Curacao Tourism Board to go cover that. So I did that a couple weeks ago. That was super fun. I know nothing. Ever since I left the Little League, I know nothing about the Little League. So it was really cool to go and film the Little League World Series. I created a video for the Tourism Board of Curacao that's honoring their past champions. These kids were ass kickers. Well, they're not really kids now. They're in their 20s, but these guys are total ass kickers. I mean, when they were 11 and 12 years old, they were like the height of their athletic. You know, they were a better athlete than I could ever hope to be with another 20 years practice. But so that was cool. Where was I? I was in Juneau, then I was in Pennsylvania, went back to Seattle, hung out with family for a few days, hung out on the old family property, got to see brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and that was just awesome. And then I went to Joshua Tree for the Synchronicity Symposium, which was not for work. It was just purely for my enjoyment. It was purely for my kind of stimulation and gratification. And you may or may not be familiar with the idea of synchronicity. I mean, it's a word that I think is used fairly often, but I don't know if I certainly got a much larger, more encompassing understanding of synchronicity. But we all kind of vaguely know what it means. Well, the way I even came to know about this conference was through some sort of coincidence, some sort of happy accident, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. You know, just like you, I get lots of emails. I don't want to call them junk emails. I don't want to call them spam because it's probably something I signed up for at one point. But I get a lot of emails on multiple email accounts. And a lot of those emails I don't even click on. You know, you just send them right to trash. You're sending the emails. And this one particular email said events in your area. And I think I've received an email from this group probably 200 times before, and I've never opened it. But on this particular day, I was like, okay, I want to know about events in my area. And click, scroll down, Synchronicity Symposium, Joshua Tree, September 12th through the 14th. The two headliners, the two keynotes for this conference were Graham Hancock, who I've read 3 of his books kind of back-to-back in the last several months. And I've seen him on several podcasts and just became a huge fan of his work. And Rupert Sheldrake, famous, infamous scientist who is really on the cutting edge of a certain type of study that is of the mind. What is it? How does it relate to the world? And is really breaking the models of kind of accepted scientific opinion or accepted scientific kind of whatever notion of what the mind is, what the brain is, and how that works. So I saw these guys were headlining this conference. I said, I gotta go. I gotta go to this thing. I've never been to anything like it. I've never been to like a weekend workshop. And I knew it would be something out of my kind of experience, out of my element, and I was just really stoked. Joshua Tree is only 2.5 hours away from LA. I said, let's do it. Signed up for the conference. Couldn't have been happier. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I went with the perspective of I want to write an article for Matador. Synchronicity is basically, it was a term coined by the famous psychologist C.G. Jung, and it basically means it's that point where your inner world, where the psychological world, where the psyche and the outer world kind of come into contact, and something ineffable bubbles to the surface, and it could feel like a very strong coincidence, or it could feel like some sort of deja vu event or something like that. I wrote down a few definitions that I found that because I knew that once I started to try to explain what synchronicity was, it just wasn't going to happen. Synchronicity is an acausally connected physical and psychological phenomenon, a coming together of inner and outer events in a way that cannot be explained by cause and effect and is meaningful to the observer. And that's kind of the kicker, and is meaningful to the observer. So a synchronistic event could possibly only have one audience member, and that's you, the person who's living in this kind of this synchronistic matrix, where these 2 points, these two realms, the inner and the outer realms, the psyche, the psychological realm, we're always in our head, and the outer world, the physical, the manifest world that's swirling and boiling around us. So Jung called that synchronicity. He called those moments synchronistic moments. And I didn't quite have that definition until I went to the event, but I did know, I kind of framed synchronicity more in the terms of coincidences, and strong coincidences that can't be explained, that felt very meaningful. So I felt like I did have a kind of a good idea of what it was. But I wanted to attend this conference through the lens of a traveler, because I've spent, at numerous points through the decade that I've been traveling heavily and have been doing professional travel media, I've spent 2-3 months abroad. Sometimes I think the longest I spent was about 9.5 months traveling continuously. And anyone who's done this type of travel, who really abandoned themselves to the world and really, well, yeah, that's a good way to put it. You really put yourself out there. You really abandon a lot of control. And you really put yourself out to kind of the trust to not just the people in the world, but all of the events, all of the chaos that goes into making what life on planet Earth is from moment to moment, from place to place. And when you travel for weeks or months on end, you'll really become tuned into the ebb and flow of your own kind of personal synchronistic events. And I think any traveler who's been an expat, who's backpacked, long-term travel, around the world travel, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Synchronicity is key to the travel experience. Now, if you're a tourist, and I'm not trying to bash on anybody's holiday style, but if you only got a couple of days and you're kind of just banging out this itinerary, or you're on some sort of very structured travel experience, you may not necessarily encounter these synchronistic events as much as somebody else might. But I also like a quote that Jung said having to do with synchronicity. He says, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. I love that. For those who have eyes to see. So it means that, yeah, even if you are in a highly structured highly structured scenario. If you have eyes to see the synchronistic events, they're everywhere, permeating reality. It's kind of how you can tune yourself into the larger kind of matrix of reality, right? Anyway, travelers know this. I've been privy to several kind of synchronistic events in my travels, and they're really the visual metaphor that comes to mind is like a stone skipping across the water. And if you're backpacking across the world, if you're traveling across the country for months on end, you're going to have these synchronistic events that kind of keep you bouncing along the surface of this great journey that you're on. So that's why I was interested in this conference, and that's kind of the perspective I went into. And also very, very stoked on the two keynotes. Graham Hancock, who, if you are familiar with Graham Hancock, you either hate him or you're very stoked on his research, his papers, his novels, his ideas. I fall in that latter category. I'm very stoked on Graham Hancock and the work he does. First of all, he's like Indiana Jones in the flesh. Dude's 64 years old right now, and he's traveling the world nonstop, researching evidence for prehistory civilizations. Now, we're not talking about woo-woo, out there, aliens built Atlantis, some sort of goofy theory. He's like literally spending time in the oldest, the most recently found, the most enigmatic archaeological finds all around the world. And he's putting these pieces together for a civilization that was a pre-Egyptian civilization, that was the Egyptian that kind of seeded the ideas that we take for Sumerian, Egyptian, all these kind of the oldest civilizations that we know about so far. He's saying, no, there was a civilization before this that was kind of the master civilization. And it's very compelling. On a travel side of things, on an adventure side of things, I find it very compelling. One of the first things that really grabbed me as somebody who wanted to travel was spending time in ancient ruins, spending time in first it was the Roman ruins, which I wouldn't really consider ancient, but spending time in a place, I'm from Seattle area, we don't have any ruins unless you can go and see some cool forts and things like that, but they're not even 100 years old. So the first time I spent time and to go see ancient Greek ruins, Roman ruins, I went to I'm totally drawing a blank. The Parthenon in Athens. To see these things for the first time, it blew my mind, and I became like mentally addicted to going to visit ruins, ancient temples. Went to go see Angkor Wat. Still is one of the most amazing experiences of my life. With the 2 days Bridget and I spent exploring Angkor, just getting into the nook and crannies of these temples. And still, Angkor Wat, not very old when we're talking about some of the most ancient structures in the world. Göbekli Tepe, 12,000 BC. That's a long-ass time ago. So Graham Hancock is on the cutting edge of this research. So he was the first keynote, and I went and saw 3 talks, workshops, lectures, whatever you want to call it. They mostly took the format of a PowerPoint. He was going through and talking. The first talk I attended on him focused on sacred plants, plant medicines, plant teachers. He is also a connoisseur, an expert par excellence of ayahuasca journeys and the sacred shamanic medicines of the South America. That's what I'm looking for. So I was interested in that topic as well. I've never partaken in an ayahuasca journey, but I knew that he was a kind of an expert on these things. He's done it many, many times, so I was very interested in his point of view on the ancient shamanic techniques of journeying, because I'm a traveler in the physical sense, but I'm also a traveler. When we talk about synchronicity, we talk about the meeting of the inner and the outer. So I'm a traveler in the outside world, but I'm also always traveling in my mind. I'm a journeyer in the inner realms as well. That really, if my outer body is moving through the earth, it's because my inner mind, my inner body, my inner Josh, my inner essence has propelled it to do so through its own journeyings. So, that really speaks to me. Hey, baby. Hi. Bridget doesn't want to be on camera, I don't think.
Not particularly.
Not particularly. And so that was Graham Hancock, and that was awesome. And here's Sophie and Bridget. Just You gonna say hi, or you're just gonna put the cat in frame?
Hi.
They were hanging out outside. We have a really weird cat. She likes to hang out outside, be on the porch, sit in the sunshine, and just. She's an indoor cat, but she likes to pretend like she's some sort of jungle queen.
I'm sorry if I derailed your
You
symposium.
you didn't derail me. I was just talking about synchronicity, Graham Hancock, and I was gonna kind of chat about something else real quick. What's up?
I'm observing.
Okay, you're just gonna stand there like you're
Dude.
just distracted. I thought you were gonna try and tell me something. Anyway, so that was the first headline. The second headliner was Rupert Sheldrake, slightly less known, but I've been into his. I mean, he's been obviously well known to people other than me, but slightly less known to me getting to the conference. And his theories, he's a full-on scientist, and his theories are incredible. And what he really talked about a lot of is the nature of the mind, the nature of our inner world, and what that is. And he says that the brain, you know, the accepted kind of materialist worldview, the accepted scientific worldview, and I'm all about science. I'm not like the science, but the accepted worldview is that the brain generates all of the mental images, and the brain generates the mental life, and it's the object in your mind, and that's end of story. It's inside your skull, it's in the brains, it's the electromagnetic, and all of your memories are wired in there, and that's all there is to it. Sheldrake says that's, you know, and maybe I'm screwing this up a little bit, but he says, yeah, that's true, kind of, that's partly true, but he believes that the brain is a field-generating object, like a magnet generates a magnetic field. The brain generates a mind field, a morphogenetic field that's connected to everything. But the brain is makes sense because he says, hey, you know, we're surrounded by field-generating objects all the time. Radios, cell phones, magnets, things like that are emitting frequencies and have and are emitting fields of effect that are invisible to our eyes, but are there. And that's what our minds are doing, is that our minds aren't just this piece of gray matter contained in our skull, that our minds are a field that's generated by this thing, or a field that is, you know, simultaneously transmitting and receiving a vast field of information, like for a second time. So that was those were the two guys at the Synchronicity Symposium that I was kind of the most stoked for, very blown away. And I got a lot. I got a lot from that weekend. Joshua Tree itself, I'd never been to. If you on my YouTube page, I obviously don't want you to leave this little vlog right now, but on my YouTube page, I just posted a aerial video shot of Joshua Tree. It was really fun, perfect, right during the golden hour. I just put a new gimbal on my Phantom, so I was just really stoked to go try that out, and I think it turned out really well. I love shooting aerial video. I'm gonna try to do it more and more. I kind of took some time off because I needed to upgrade my system a little bit, but yeah, that was a ton of fun. I'd never been to Joshua Tree. It was 104 degrees, and I was camping, so I had to construct these massive shade structures, and it was really hot. It was really hot. But the heat is like this. It's kind of this. It becomes this meditative experience where you just kind of have to endure through it. So it's like, sit still, don't move, cover yourself up, just sit in the heat. But it was a lot of fun. What was I was going to go through some of the lessons I learned at the Synchronicity Symposium that I'm kind of banging out for an article and write, a blog on write. I don't think I'm going to go into that actually though. You just bear with me for one moment. Yeah. Anyway. I don't think I'm going to go into that. Suffice it to say that I felt like I learned a lot. I learned a lot by going to it. I learned a lot by listening to the speakers. But I wanted to end this. I want to go into the second part of this vlog. That's what I've been doing. That's Synchronicity. That's what I'm excited about this week. Second part of this vlog is at the beginning of June, I got my bike stolen. And this has happened to me before. I made a vlog about it in Seattle where my bike was stolen, and then the police found it in a pawn shop and called me, and I picked it up, and I made a vlog about that, and it was a beautiful moment. So I'm no stranger, and I've had my bike stolen several times in the past. This is actually the 4th time in my life that I've had a bicycle stolen from me. And anybody who's had a bike stolen knows that it feels really shitty. It's like really not a fun scenario. And people who steal bikes are like the scum of the earth. To me, it's like there's the people who crash the stock market. There's the people that, you know, I don't know, blow things up. And then there's the people that steal bikes. And so at the beginning of June, I had my bike stolen off of my porch. And it was chained up. Somebody went up there with some bolt cutters. It was like, it was a scenario. They went in there Mission Impossible style, and they stole my bike. And it was a very, Bridget came up to me and she says, Josh, you know, she was up first. She said, Josh, your bike's gone. And I just had this very, very calm moment of satori where I've had my bike stolen before, and I was like, okay, the bike's gone. That's fine. I'm not going to trip. I'm not going to stress. In fact, it didn't even really register. I felt like it was just like, wow, like snow slipping off a leaf silently. I accepted the fact that my bike was stolen. And then several weeks later, I went out and bought the exact same bike in a different color and tricked it out with the same accoutrements that my stolen bike had. I didn't call the police. I didn't report it. I don't know. I probably should have. Honestly, in retrospect, I should have called the cops. But I didn't call the police. I just bought a new bike. So fast forward 13 weeks later. I know it's 13 weeks later exactly because I posted on Instagram a picture of my cut lock on the stolen bike threatening death upon the bike thieves. Yeah, I came close to that. We'll get to that. So anyway, 13 weeks later, I take my new bike and I go and get chicken from our favorite Mediterranean chicken place. I order all the trim, you know, hummus, got the chicken, the pita, all that, ready to go. Tabbouleh salad, like we're gonna throw down on some serious food. And I got like bags, I got like to-go bags, and I'm trying to ride my bike home with the bags. I'm not far from my apartment. I'm literally like no more than 6 or 7 blocks from my apartment. And so I'm getting uncomfortable. I'm trying to ride home with all these bags, and I set the bags down on the sidewalk. I kind of pull my bike over. I set the bags down. I need to readjust the delivery food that I'm about to come home and shower Bridget with all this yummy food. And I set the bags down, and my spidey senses tingle, and I look over, and there's my stolen bike. I'm standing right next to it. I took the same street. I stopped right next to it with my bike that's the identical twin, different color. The stolen bike was blue. My new bike was red. I'm standing there. I'm standing right next to it. And it's that same snow sliding off a leaf zen moment where I'm like, huh, motherfucker, that's my bike. And I look down, and I got this hot, steaming chicken with my hummus and tabbouleh salad. I'm like, oh, shit. And the bike is locked. Okay, very important right now. The bike is locked to a fence. Somebody had relocked it with a kryptonite, with a U-lock, right? So I thought, all right, well, whatever's going to happen has to happen on a full stomach. I'm going to get home. I take a few cell phone pictures, you know, just to prove to myself that it's real. I get home, you know, I need to get home and eat this chicken. I need to, like, fill myself up. So I don't tell Bridget right away. I get home, put the food down, and I'm just, like, tearing into this thing. I'm obviously got something in my mind. I'm just like, rah, and I'm feeling like I probably eat, like, 3 times more than I would have normally, but I'm just like gearing up for whatever's going to happen. I'm going to get that bike back. I'm just like feeding myself so that however many calories I have to burn, however long it takes, whatever kind of confrontation plays out, at least I have a full stomach and I feel good about that. So I eat, and then I say, Bridget, I got to go take care of some business. And she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I found my bike. She was like, what? And blah, blah, blah. I tell her the story, and she says, Josh, here's what you got to do. You have to lock your lock on the bike. Oh, double lock the bike. So then no matter what happens, my lock's on the bike too. It's like Mexican standoff with locks. I'm like, ooh, that's a great idea. So I bounce out. I don't know how this is going to go down, but I'm pretty damn sure I'm going to get my bike. And I have a piece of paperwork from the bike shop that I bought it from in Seattle. Let me get to that. So I get to the bike, and I call the police. Because at first I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a crowbar, and I'm just gonna crank that kryptonite lock right off. I'm gonna re-steal it, and it's gonna be like that, rolling in, you know, taking it. And then Bridget says, no, don't do that. And I take that. It's very good advice. I say, okay, I'm gonna do this right. I'm gonna lock it up, and I'm gonna call the police. So I say 911. I say, it's not an emergency, but I'm looking at my stolen bike. stolen 13 weeks ago, according to Instagram, and I'm not sure what we should do about this. And she's like, you sure it's yours? I'm like, positive. All the identifying marks. It's like, it had the sticker of the bike shop that I bought it from on Capitol Hill right on there with the date I bought it, and I'm holding the paperwork from the bike shop. I'm like, it's my bike. It's like my bike. It was calling out to me. It was like, it's like those stories of the dogs that go 300 miles to be reunited with the family that abandoned it in the first place. That's my bike. My bike was like my steed that was stolen from me in the middle of the night by horse thieves, and it just wants to get back to me. So I'm like, yeah, it's my bike. And she was like, all right, we'll have some people there in a second. And as I'm like talking to the police, and when you're talking to the police, and my pulse is kind of, I'm like sitting here, let's do this thing. When you're talking to the police, I've realized that it's obvious that you're talking to the police. And these group of people we're walking towards the building, and they slow down because I'm like, blah, 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 get a dispatch out here, whatever. And they're like, oh, this dude's talking to the police. And we live here. What's going on? Group of people ranging in age from the elderly to this toddler. 5 people, couple of dudes, 4 or 5 dudes, and they seem to like have this shared mind, and they kind of know something's going on. They slow their roll, and they see me, and they're like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, do you guys live here?" And they were, "Yes, we live here." I said, "Do you know anything about the bike?" And they were kind of exchanging looks. "No, we don't know anything about the bike." So, how long has it been here? Anyway, I start giving them the third degree, and 10 minutes later, I draw a little crowd. They don't go inside. They stick around. They want to know what's going to happen. I said, "Yeah, I called the police." And they're like, "Oh, we called the police." All right, the police are coming. 10 minutes later, they're like, "Okay, your cops are here," because I have my back turned. I unlock the bike, and this ginormous officer gets out of the cruiser, and his friend that doesn't say a word the whole encounter. His friend's basically invisible. Not his friend, his partner, whatever. The other cop. But Officer Gigantor has this huge smile, and he says, "So, you found your bike?" And I went, "Yeah, I did. This is my bike." And I start talking to my little man. I'm like, "This is my bike. This is my bike on Instagram. This is my bike on Facebook. And this is the paperwork. And I bought it on Capitol Hill in Seattle." He says, "You moved from Seattle to LA?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm sorry." And I was like, whatever. Anyway, I said, this is where I bought my bike, Velo Bike Shop on Capitol Hill. It's a wonderful place if you need your bike serviced, if you're looking for a new bike parts. It's a great place. It's a Velo Bike Shop on Capitol Hill. That's my bike. And then he was like, "Dude, that's your bike. All right. Do you have a hacksaw?" And just like that, "Do you have a hacksaw?" I said, "No, I don't have a hacksaw." And he says, "Okay." I said, "Do you have a hacksaw?" He says, "No, I don't have a hacksaw." And then in that moment, he pulls out his 3-foot club, billy club. Is that what they call them these days? I don't think they call them billy club. Giant baton. That sounds like something a girl twirls at a football game. It was a friggin' blunt. It was like a mini baseball bat is what it was. It was metal, and it goes, "You want to do it?" Offers me his club. And I'm like, "Whoa, what? Do I want to do what?" He's like, "You're going to take the bike back. Let's take your bike back. Let's do this." And I'm still just like, my mind's just like, "Whoa, what?" My mind's reeling. We're gonna be like that? Because I thought it was going to be some sort of process. Like he's going to be like, whoa, we can't just take your word for it. We're going to have to contact the owner. We're going to file some paperwork, and you have to see us, 3 months from now, come down to the blah, blah, blah. No. It wasn't like that at all. It was 30 seconds after I'm rambling about my Instagram photos and my paperwork, he has it out. He's like, "Smash it. Smash the lock off." And instantly I start sweating a little bit, and I was like, "I don't want to hurt you." I said, "I don't want to hurt your club." And he says, "Dude, you're not going to hurt my club." And in fact, I ended up denting my bike pretty good. And so I take it, wham, 1, 2, and there's 15, 20 people gathered at this point because the cops have their lights flashing, and this wild man with the billy club, if they even call it that these days, the wild man swinging at it. And on the third one, I'm like, whang! And they make these locks not to be broken. So this is, kudos to Kryptonite. I was hitting it hard. On the third time, I hadn't smashed through it yet. And I kind of get this irrational fear that he's going to go, "Well, you know what? This was a bad idea. Let's think of a new thing that's not nearly as cool as this." And on the third hit, I hadn't brought it yet. And I thought, okay. I just kind of got this fear, like it's not going to happen. Like I'm not going to be able to break the lock. This kid behind me goes, "Take out your anger, Holmes." And I went, "Boom, boom." and the lock just twists up and wrenches free, and a little crowd, little cheer goes up in the crowd, and it was amazing. I said, I'm like holding the lock, and I'm like shaking the cop's hand like I just won the Price is Right, and I'm high-fiving people, and I'm like, that's right, bitches, I steal my bike, you never take it again. And I start giving like this impromptu victory speech, you know. I wish I had my GoPro or something. It was not documented at all. And then I had 2 bikes, and the officer's like, well, that's no good. Let's throw them in the back of our car, and we'll give you a ride home. Amazing. So all of that went down in like the course of 15 minutes, really. And I felt like that was a very syncretic event in and of itself, because I'm walking with my. I just felt like I knew at one point I was going to encounter my bike. It's like that knowing seemed to have manifested into the world that as I'm walking, it could have walked down any number of streets. I could have done anything that day, but I walked and stopped to adjust my bags right next to my stolen bike. And when I went and got it serviced, because they had kind of neglected, you know, the people that steal your bike, they don't do a very good job, you know, keeping it up. So I went and got a service at the bike shop, and I was telling him, and I said, this is stolen. It's been gone for 3 months. And he was like, whoa, how'd you get it back? That never happens. And this is the guy, you know, the guy that works at the bike shop. He knows. And I said, I found it. I was walking by, I found it. He's like, dude, that never happens. So I felt like, actually, it does happen. It happens if you have eyes to see the synchronicity in your life, and also if you are going to get, you know, your favorite chicken. You might just run into your bike. Anyway, that's my story of how I stole my stolen bike back with the help of my friends at the LAPD. That was my first interaction with the LAPD, and I have to say it was a very positive one. I feel like I got friends. You know, they dropped me off my house. They gave me a high five. So in a time where I felt like the world needed a positive like cop story, I had one to share to friends, anybody, and then I immediately just started telling everybody the story that would listen for the next 3 days. So yeah, that's that story. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this little vlog short, like in about 35 minutes. That's enough. Throat's getting parched. I'm gonna enjoy this nice latte. Before I do, what do I want to say? I'll probably do this again. You know, it's kind of fun. It's a Google Hangout, so I can have up to like 9 other people in here as well, chatting. So maybe the next vlog will have somebody to kind of bounce some things off of, or a couple of people, and we'll do some sort of dialogue or trialogue. That's always fun too. But this time it was kind of an experiment. I've never done it before, so just kind of wanted to do that. So if you don't subscribe to me on YouTube, you should go ahead and do that right now. If you want GoPro videos, aerial videos, travel videos, not necessarily a talking head on a couch, but I do lots of other kinds of media. So if you don't subscribe now. And I'm Joshua Johnson at Joshy Washington. That's Joshy Washington, like the state, one word, at Joshy Washington. And thanks for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me in my living rooms. It's nice. It was nice chatting with y'all. Bye.